name is Donnie Lowy from Closeout Hope you're doing well today. Today I'd like to talk to you about how to launch your own wholesale clothing brand. Now, what I would first of all tell you is if you are going to be involved in the clothing business in the children's segment, you have to be very familiar with the market. You need to do your research, and I know it's true for every market, but one thing that you really need to know with children's clothing is that children are constantly growing, right? So you're growing out of sizes, and because of that, parents are going to have different calculations when it comes to buying kids' clothing. One segment of the market might want to buy very, I would say, low-price items, knowing that their kids are going to outgrow the items, they're not going to need the items, even if they can afford to buy more expensive clothing. But if their kids are only going to wear that clothing for a few months, then they might not want to spend a lot of money on it. At the same time, people do want high-quality clothing for their kids. People will often spend more money on their kids than on themselves, so you want to be aware of that. You might set up a clothing brand for a market that doesn't spend that much money on clothing for themselves, but it will be willing to spend more money on their kids. So that's one thing you want to have in mind. Another thing that's important is there's a lot of competition in the clothing business, so you want to pick a niche, right? You want to have something that you're known for. I've seen, for example, there's a clothing brand that specializes in making organic children's clothing. I've seen another clothing brand which what they'll do is they'll license clothing and they'll sell that licensed kids clothing. So the key is to pick a niche. And another interesting thing is to make kids clothing that are similar to the clothing that are going to be worn by the parents. So you'll see sometimes parents dressing up their kids in sports clothing if it's a sport that they enjoy playing. Or I've seen this with MMA clothing, with mixed martial arts clothing. So parents who are into MMA will dress up their kids also in MMA clothing. So you want to focus on a niche, and the niche could be aimed really at the parents, or it could be a niche just that simply kids would enjoy, such as licensed characters, whether it's comic book characters, whether it's a cartoon character, and so on. Now, remember, the more of a niche you have, the more of an innovative niche, then the more you're going to be able to stand out in the marketplace. And what I would recommend to you is go to the trade shows, go to the wholesale children's clothing shows, and see what clothing is in demand, what people are buying. And what you can also do is you can actually go into department stores, go into the clothing section for kids, and just see what clothing is really popular. Speak to the salespeople, ask them what clothing are they selling the best. And they might actually even tell you that, a lot of parents come in and they ask us for kids' clothing for, a special type of, let's say, material for kids' clothing, and we don't carry that clothing. And now you know that there's a market for that type of clothing. You could do this by going to retailers. Look, if you go into a kids' clothing boutique, the owner of that kids' clothing boutique, they want to get the best type of merchandise for their customers. So if there's merchandise that's not available in the marketplace, and it's merchandise that their customers are asking for, they're going to share that information with you, especially if you tell them that you're launching a new clothing brand and you want to have clothing that's going to be appropriate and suitable for them. You let them know, look, I want to supply you the best possible kids' clothing, so let me know what it is that you need. You can call buyers of department stores, buyers of retail, of individual retail stores. You can call online sellers, you can call people that sell on eBay and Amazon, and find out what is the need in the marketplace. Now, when you launch your kids' clothing brand, you can set up a showroom for it. This way buyers can come see the clothing in person, or you can take the clothing to buyers. You can call them up, set up an appointment with them, and go meet with them. Now, it makes sense to have a showroom, whether it's an actual showroom or it's a warehouse, so people can actually come see your merchandise. But now, let's say you cannot afford to set up your own showroom or rent your own warehouse. Then what I would recommend is find someone who has a warehouse or has a showroom and rent space from them, or pay them to display your samples, or give them a commission, so you don't have to pay them ahead of time, but give them a commission for any sales that they make for your clothing. This way, if a buyer comes from a department store, they go to the showroom, they show them the samples, the department store buyer says, yeah, you know what, I'd like to carry this kid's clothing in my store, then the owner of the showroom will get a commission for making that connection with the department store buyer. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. My website is closeoutexplosion.com. Thank you and have a great day. Next time you're in New York, you're welcome to visit my warehouse.